Janken. Ta-da. Too late now. He's just gonna go with the flow. Jajankin. Look at that, immediately gets back to the point. Unless someone's stunned right out of it for a bit. It's a calculated risk, I suppose. Yeah, yeah. See, that's... oh, beautiful shot. See, that's the thing about Gon. He knows the risk, but he's still... Ooh. Battle experience. Field experience. Experience altogether, I suppose. In this specific type of situation. Oof. Yeah? That applies to Killua as well, I suppose. To an extent. Spot on. Raw talent, raw potential that many have picked up on. He can read it like a book, eh? It's kind of reminding me of Genthuru against Gon. Again, the flow of the battle. Though, of course, Knuckle isn't going all out, though. He was about to say something in the last episode as well. Look at this. He's telegraphing it again. He's like, get ready, Gon. I love the imagery there. This fiend, this devil, but he's so gentle, compassionate. Precisely, yes. Gon can really respect that, right? He respects people that assist him, that help him, that are open to helping him to better himself. He's too gentle. Of course, he's got his own issues and speed bumps to come over, right? Or to overcome, rather. Knuckle, that is. That one was a test to see how he'll react to that. Ah, see? Yeah. He wanted to confirm it, for sure. Oh. See, it is really kind of beginning to feel like Genthuru against Gon. That kind of, took him out of it a bit. He's thinking about it now. And his own, shortcomings altogether. He got him. Whoa. This is Gon, right? He's tenacious. He'll put his body on the line to learn. Back up on his feet. Interesting. He's using it, against him. Look at this. Cameo. And Gon used that against him. Zushi? Oh, that's gone. Huh. Krapika. Really interesting. For being soft. This is how Gon does things. Under pressure, he's able to find a solution. Right. I've seen it since the Hunter exam days, right? Okay. So he... But the thing is, that's like the opposite of Killua's approach, isn't it? It's not a fluke. He's been actively thinking about this. Hell yes. Yeah. That's a key difference, right, in the approaches. Beautiful. Gon is open to doing that, putting in risky plans of action. Killua isn't open to that. So it's about to reach its conclusion. Okay, Gon, let's see this. Jajanken. It's good to have a name. Beautiful animation though, look at this. Wow, wow. Right. And that can only happen if you're open to, right? Open to engaging. And Gon's more than open to engaging. Realistically, he's got maybe one more then, right? Yeah, that's the reality of it. He's going for it. He's going for it. From that distance, yeah, I was gonna say there's quite a bit of... It's a ranged attack then, isn't it? Okay, Knuckle, you're about to get a bit of a display in some of the other possibilities. The emission attack. Okay. Yeah. But is he really missing it though? It's a distraction. Ooh, I'm surprised. Once you knock it aside, you're about to get a surprise, my guy. Oh. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't catch up or pick up on that. He decided he's gonna put everything into this final... Oh, he got him! He got him! Oh, it's just like Green Island, the dodgeball match. This is gone, isn't it? His body just couldn't take it anymore, it just shut down. Ah. Wow. Genthru kind of got... Yeah. Remember, Genthru ended up tripping and he dodged that attack. He got quite lucky. Interesting though, that he got that close. If you say so. Ooh. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, because if Gon is to beat him and Knuckle isn't fighting at full strength, that's false hope, right? And imagine he ends up in the NGL based on that result. Okay, shoot. He's taking a back seat, much like Killua, right? He actually does look like he's serious about it this time. Time for Cookie-chan to do her thing. So clutch. Right. He's quite calculating in his approach. Really calculating. Yeah. Oh. He's at some night then. Yeah, the other Bisky. You can thank Cookie-chan. Yeah. Look at this specimen. Yeah? I mean, but that's by design. That's like built into him, right? He gets out of there. Exit strategy. It's all he knows. Yeah, but no. That was the right move. For sure. Yeah. Yeah, there he is, Illumi. This lingering, ominous presence above him. Look at her. Whoa. That'll do a number on Killua, man. It's harsh, but she has to kind of give him a push. Yeah. Again, it's part of his build-up, man. It's just... Exit strategy, yeah. Might be nearly impossible though, you know? I've kind of speculated about that before. Much to think about, huh, Killua? It's interesting if you kind of look back at Silva's approach as well. You don't say, eh? Look at that. The hypnotic Illumi. Self-serving love. Listen, yeah, you know, I speculated about this before, but look at this. You know, it's like right in our faces at this point. There's more to it, you know, in terms of Illumi's possible hold on Killua. Love it. Look at that. He's still sweating. Okay, so the stage is set for the final encounter, the final showdown. Though, of course, it's going to be the first time for at least two of them, right? Killua and Shoot. The one who runs and the one who hides, right? Kill and shoot. So, yeah, this is, you know, I've seen quite a bit of Knuckle and Gon, and, you know, I've got to say, their encounter in this one is so damn engaging. It has been since the first time they kind of came together out there in the open at the park. But yeah, this one specifically, yeah, it has a really fantastic flow to it, doesn't it? You know, I finally got a name, Jajankin, and isn't it so on brand? Isn't it so in character that, you know, the name came about in that manner, right? the stutter, Though, of course, he didn't reveal that openly. But, it's a really fun moment for us, the audience, isn't it? And, I love Gon's reactions to this, just that blank stare, right? He's just baffled that, Knuckle has perceived it in this manner, because Knuckle is really quite impressed. He really likes the name. And of course, I get quite the showcase for that ability. Almost makes it happen, right? It's kind of insane to see that, if it wasn't for his body giving out once again, his body shutting down once again, because again, he's kind of pushed it beyond the limits of his body, beyond his own limits, right? He's able to go there. And, this isn't something new. I've seen it on multiple occasions at this point, right? It's just how Gon functions. It's how Gon approaches things, right? He's got this never say die attitude. And of course, because of this attitude, because of this tenacity, this unbreakable spirit, stubborn, right, to a fault, he's kind of stared death into the eye many times, right? As Knuckle picked up on it as well. I was about to say that on many of those occasions, it's of his own doing. Putting himself in that situation, right? Facing that situation by choice. He puts himself. You can kind of go all the way back to the Hunter exam arc for many of the things in this episode, actually. But yeah, he's been like this since the beginning. You kind of go back to the Hanzo and Gon encounter, right? There's a lot of similarities there, right? In comparison to this encounter, him and Knuckle, and then of course, I mentioned Gon and Genthru, right? There's a lot of similar traits on display, right? You kind of almost see the progression of it, right? Many things are really quite similar, right? The stubborn attitude, the tenacity, again, the never say die attitude. But now, you actually see his progression in terms of, combat ability, right? And just field experience, battle experience. It's something he does lack, as both I and Knuckle noted. But he's doing the one thing that's required to do, right? If you do want to gain more experience in that, if you do want to take, a few steps up the stairs, climb the ladder, and that is engaging in these types of encounters. This is how you learn, right? This is how you improve. And, this is certainly the case for someone like Gon, someone that has his personality. You can only really do so much in training, right? You can never truly replicate the conditions or the actual fight itself, right? The individual you might be fighting. Yes, you can maybe even get kind of close in terms of the intensity, perhaps. But again, ultimately, it's got to be the real deal. You've got to take part in the real deal, encounter to, kind of put some time in, essentially. And, Gon is more than open to engaging in that. But then again, on the flip side, you've got Killua, who is not open to engaging in that manner, right? Not one bit. It's a thing in combat sports, be it MMA, be it boxing, that you simply cannot replicate the fighter. You can try, you can bring in some guys that might be, similar in size, stature, or, even in the, their fighting style. Maybe your training partners can try to mimic it to the best of their ability. But again, at the end of the day, no matter how close you get, once you actually get into the ring, into the cage, it's, that's the real deal. That's the first time you truly kind of get to test yourself against that specific individual. And, in the case of Hunter x Hunter and, the really, really unique nature of all of these people, right? Especially Nen, even though, Knuckle isn't really even using Nen against Gon. He's just using combat ability, right? And again, he's not even going all out. The shoot brings it to our attention that, okay, yeah, you're kind of soft, man. You're helping them. You might as well just give up your tiles, even though they wouldn't accept it. And, Killua made it really clear, don't you dare lose to Gon fighting at half strength, right? Without going all out. Because, listen, if you're able to beat him, even at half strength, even if you're not going all out, okay, cool, fine. But if it's the opposite, right? If you lose to Gon because you didn't go all out, because you didn't apply yourself to your fullest, then I'll never forgive you, right? Because again, that's a bit of a false dawn, isn't it? Gon, in a hypothetical, if that happens, Gon is going to end up in the NGL under false pretenses, perhaps. But, you know, that being said, it's not really like Gon, is it, to just accept it and be content, right? Even he could probably tell. I mean, he can tell. He picked up on it in this episode. He actually puts it to the test, right? He actually fires up a Jajenkin to, you know, finally kind of get a definitive answer to his, you know, hypothesis that indeed, you know, Knuckle is quite gentle, really gentle. He's really quite compassionate, really quite helpful, more than open to teaching him. And yeah, you know, Gon might be stubborn. You know, sometimes it helps him, sometimes it hinders him. But, you know, he's not a complete bonehead. No, far from it, right? I've seen time and time again that this kid is really quite sharp in the field, right? I think he functions the best in the middle of an encounter, right? On his feet, applying things that he's learning, right? On the fly. That's how he learns best. That's how he functions best. He needs to be in the middle of these encounters. He needs to apply the things that he's learning almost immediately, right, to turn the tables. And again, you know, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, he's able to push himself to a limit or beyond the limit even, right, to execute a plan. I mean, you know, one of the most shocking ones happened in Great Island, right? Him being open to losing his arm, right? Again, you know, just thinking back to it, that's just fucking insane, man. He lost his arm, not completely knowing that, you know, it can be, I don't know, brought back or restored rather. Yeah, that's just insane, right? That's insane. It's the extreme opposite of Killua. And, you know, Bisky being the incredible mentor, the incredible teacher that she is, understood this. She clocked it. She recognized this, right? And, you know, it's certainly quite a major speed bump. You know, this could end up becoming a major issue, right? Massive issue, life and death. And listen, yes, it's harsh. It stings. And, you know, it's really difficult to see Killua in that position, having to listen to this, having to hear this, right? You know, those expressions, oh God, it's kind of heartbreaking, isn't it? And even after that, you see a few shots of Killua before they depart, right? You cannot see his eyes, and you can just tell there's just so much on his mind, right? And that's a bit of a constant as well, as far as Killua is concerned. You know, just really quite recently, you know, the escape from the NGL, the escape from Neferpito. Yeah, that's, yeah, Killua's been under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure. And you know, these are not things that he can openly talk about. These are not things he can openly discuss with Gon. There's quite a bit that he holds back, that he feels that he has to hold back from Gon, right? Or Gon. Yeah, but the thing is, you know, these boys are so incredibly lucky to have a teacher like Bisky, a mentor like Bisky. It's one of the best things that's ever happened to them on their journeys, right? She understands just how much Gon means to Killua and how much Killua means to Gon. She completely understands that dynamic. You know, it's by design. It's quite the choice. It's a deliberate choice, of course, to, you know, really kind of state the extreme, right? That, you know, one of these days, at some point, you know, I'm really quite sure that you're going to end up abandoning Gon, you know, or leave him to die, because ultimately you are going to retreat, right? And then there's a whole aspect of, you know, that being just a foundational element, you know, that being a part of his build, you know, a part of his DNA, a part of his programming. I think programming is the one term that really, really kind of feels right in this sense. You know, the imagery is once again really quite deliberate. You know, Illumi is the constant. Once again, you know, it's not Silva, it's not Zeno, it's not his mom, it's Illumi. Illumi is the constant. Illumi has his fingertips all over this, you know, on this mindset, on this really smothering type of love, right? Bisky feels that it's this self-serving type of love, and, you know, I think her read is essentially spot on. It is. And I've discussed this before, right? That Illumi, it might be a little bit twisted, you know, because a lot of things about the Zoldyck family are a little bit different, not quite conventional. But I do think he cares about Killua. He cares about him this much, right? Listen, again, perhaps it's, like she said, self-serving, but ultimately Illumi doesn't want Killua to be caught up in these types of situations. And the thing is, it's possible that, Illumi might have been instructed by Silva and Zeno perhaps to teach Killua in this manner, to, have this manipulative hold over him, perhaps, right? Like literally, that could be a part of this. Like I said, it's kind of in our faces now. I've seen it on multiple occasions in these types of situations, right? The Nobunaga incident comes to mind. Both Gon and Killua are being held captive, and you see Killua, he's really quite frustrated. He wants to try it, he wants to push it, but once again, that imagery, the looming presence, that's almost kind of like a puppet master. Even you kind of think of that imagery of Neferpito's Hatsu controlling the resurrected kite. You can kind of almost apply the same type of logic here. Maybe not that literally, but listen, it's clear that Illumi has his hands all over this, and that in some capacity, Nen is at play, right? In terms of manipulating Killua, right? Having this type of control over him. It's almost kind of like, okay, this is a part of his teachings as a Zoldyck clan assassin, but it feels like, just to make sure, there's a bit of a failsafe in place. And, that's the point I'm making here about Nen being at play in some capacity, right? Illumi the manipulator, right? Being at play in some capacity. So, I certainly believe there is that as well, that there is a hold over Killua. And I've discussed this, I've speculated about this because of that imagery as well. I've seen it back in the Hunter exam finale, right? Illumi telling Killua, okay, you're gonna have to go through me if you want to save your friend. And even there, Killua walks away, doesn't he? And he didn't know that Illumi isn't being completely serious about it. Illumi was not going to try and kill Gon then and there, maybe at some point. I mean, he certainly had that on his mind, right? He certainly clocked it that, Gon could be an issue at some point, right? And of course, Hisoka immediately clocks it and tells him, okay, take a few steps back there, brother. This is someone I've taken an interest in, so, back off. But yeah, that really distinct and deliberate Illumi imagery is really quite present, right? Since the Hunter exam arc, right? The hypnotic aspect of it as well. So, that's the point I was making about it being right in our faces at this point. So yeah, at this point, I think it's really quite clear that, okay, he's got a hold over Killua, right? And that, that makes it even more heartbreaking, doesn't it? The thing is, Bisky kind of has an understanding for that as well from the sounds of it, right? She understands that this is going to be really quite difficult to break free of, right? Even if she doesn't literally think that, okay, there's actually Nen at play here. And, once again, there's a shot of Illumi and, his hypnotic hold over Killua. But, you see that Killua's silhouette kind of transitions in, and then it's Killua. You kind of fully see him. It transitions into a clear depiction of Killua in the eye. But then you see that Illumi's hair is kind of obstructing Killua, isn't it? There's a really cool moment. It kind of goes in front of his eyes. Right, so you see that he's kind of entangled. He's being held back, right? So yeah, it appears, through Bisky's assessment that it's going to be really incredibly difficult for Killua to break free of this mindset, right? And the thing is, Bisky, she's almost kind of like, okay, if she's saying this, you take it, right? You take it as the right read on things. Now, Illumi being the one that's this constant, rather than, someone like Silva, or maybe even someone like Zeno, it's interesting, isn't it? Because, I brought up the possibility of, okay, sure, maybe, Silva instructed Illumi, but, it appears to be all Illumi. Because, I've seen Silva and Zeno take a bit of a different approach, right? Against Crollo. This is not really a stealth approach. This is just a head-on, let's take out the target. Let's eliminate the target that they've been paid for, right? It's essentially like an all-out battle, isn't it? But then also, speaking of Silva and his approach and his belief that, sooner or later, Killua is going to return. He had absolute belief that Killua is going to return, right? He tells his wife, right? And he felt really damn sure. He was really quite sure, rather, that, yeah, Killua is going to return. And,
just based on everything I'm seeing here, yeah, I do believe he's probably spot on that Killua is going to end up returning at some point, right? I think the specific line of dialogue was because he's my son. And the thing is, Killua told Silva all about Gon. It was actually a really wholesome scene, a bit of father-son bonding. Killua really felt like he could open up, right? He's really quite excited to share all of these details. It really was wholesome, right? It's a unique and rare moment. And he's telling Silva about Gon's stubborn nature, his selfish nature. And he's not complaining or anything. He's saying all of this with a smile on his face. Right. So Silva understood, okay, this person that he's kind of become friends with, or he's taken to, this is his attitude. This is his approach. Right. This is the opposite of the things that Killua's been taught. So to me, it kind of feels like even Silva had a bit of an understanding for that dynamic. Right. And that dynamic that is going to build because Killua is kind of going to be out there again. Right. And Silva tells him, yeah, if you want to go. He asked him twice. Do you want to go see your friends? And the second time, Killua felt that he could say, yes, I do, right? And, he made him make that promise, never betray your friends. It's a blood promise, isn't it? And, that right there is another really twisted thing at play, isn't it? On one end, you've got Silva who's asking him to make this promise to never betray his friends. But then on the flip side, you've got this hold over Killua, right? This thing that's kind of programmed into Killua, right? To flee, to get out of there, exit strategies and all of that, right? So it's really quite the significant internal struggle that's about to be at play. Internal struggle is kind of a constant for someone like Killua. I mean, I just feel for the kid. I do, right? The position he finds himself in, and perhaps not even having complete control over this programming of his, right? Yeah. But the thing is, like I said, she understands the dynamic and she understands just how much Killua and Gon mean to each other. So she felt the need to bring that up, to, really put an extreme example out there or extreme scenario out there that, this approach, this habit, right? Even if it might not be of his own doing, if he doesn't, break it, if he doesn't, overcome it, he could put his best friend at risk, right? He truly could leave him to die. If things don't change, if his approach doesn't change, right? And that simply scares the shit out of Killua, right? It petrifies him, but ultimately it is the type of push Killua needs. And it's coming from someone like Bisky, someone that Killua respects as a teacher, as a mentor. So to hear this from her, he, even if it might sting, even if it's harsh, he knows, okay, yeah, she's right. I've really got to think of this. And yeah, he seemed determined, much like Shoot, actually. Both of them kind of seemed determined by the end of the episode. But Killua, perhaps has a bit of a different fire kind of lit under him at this point. And alongside Bisky's declaration that, at some point, he is going to leave Gon behind to die, right? Even if it isn't something he really wants to do, right? But there's also a bit of an ultimatum. Now, as far as a possible ultimatum goes, that's just kind of like the term I'm using here, because ultimately, now that it's out there, Killua doesn't need, he doesn't need to be forced out of Gon's life. Now that Bisky's really kind of put this example out there, right? That if you're not able to be Shoot, you must leave Gon's side. Because, if he's not able to be Shoot, it means that he's not able to pull the trigger. He's not able to fully, kind of engage against someone that is superior than him, right? In combat ability and experience. So yeah, at this point, they're kind of on the same page, both Bisky and Killua, right? It's not as if Bisky's going to have to pull him out of there, and force him to leave Gon. He now understands, okay, if I cannot pull the trigger, if I cannot make this happen, for Gon's safety, I'm going to have to leave him. Because again, the last thing Killua wants is to put Gon at risk. But also, let's be fair, let's not just put the whole thing on Killua, on his shoulders, right? Gon is he's prone to engaging in these types of encounters, getting himself in these really dangerous situations, right? So at that point, it's almost kind of like forcing Killua's hand, right? And this isn't something new. They have an understanding for this. Gon has a complete understanding for this as well. Back in York New City, as they do escape the Phantom Troop hideout, he tells him, it's my job to do stupid things, and it's your job to stop me from doing those stupid things, right? Or assisting me once I get tangled up in these stupid things I choose to do. It's a bit of a wholesome scene, isn't it? But let's look at perhaps an extreme situation that happened really quite recently. They had to retreat, or Killua had to retreat right after knocking Gon out. They had to fall back. They had to get out of there because Neferpito showed up on the scene, right? And of course, Kite instructed Killua to get out of there. He told him, yeah, you made the right choice by knocking him out. So, that's the right approach, 100% the right approach to retreat at that moment, right? Now, what if they're back in the NGL, right? And they do come across Neferpito once again, because again, if Gon is to come across Kite once again, and I firmly believe that is going to happen at some point, then it's really quite possible and really quite highly likely that they are going to run into Neferpito once again at some point, right? How is Gon going to react? And, if Gon chooses to engage again, how the hell do you think Killua is supposed to react to that? Listen, no matter how much training they get here, how much, field experience and battle experience and fight experience, they're not going to be anywhere close to Neferpito's level. They're just not. And hell, even the chairman himself doesn't believe he's really a match for Neferpito. Of course, Nav believes he's being quite modest. And yeah, I think after the chairman kind of gets rid of a bit of that rust, perhaps he is going to be quite the match for Neferpito. Though of course, the chairman has his own concerns as well, and he brought up that notion of having to sacrifice someone, right? Yeah. So I don't know, man. If they're to come across Neferpito again, right? And it's just them two, I completely expect and hope that Killua retreats. At some point, you simply cannot save Gon from himself, right? No one can expect Killua to stick around if Gon, kind of loses his mind. And, again, if he's to come across that Kite, that's a strong possibility. Like I speculated, like I discussed, right? It was kind of just put on hold. Him knocking Gon out at that moment, I feel like it was really kind of put on hold. And I think perhaps even a bigger outburst, a bigger, head loss is perhaps on the horizon if Gon is to come across not Killua, Kite, right? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of, once he comes across Kite, that reaction is about to be, I don't know. It feels like it could be something significant, right? Seeing Kite in that state. Yeah. And, really finally truly clocking that Kite's gone. The Kite he knew is gone. And this is just like a shell. And that he's been brought back in this manner, right? Yeah. It's going to get a reaction out of Gon. But going back to Bisky's concern about, the lack of engagement, that Killua did not take part in any type of encounter, any type of fight against his opponent for nearly a month. Though, of course, on the flip side, his opponent is also someone that is not trying to engage. But, that being said, listen, Shoot is much more experienced and he's been stalking them. He's been watching them, right? Yes, he didn't really kind of get to see Killua in action, maybe for a bit. It was the 2-on-1 against Knuckle. But yeah, at this point, surely Shoot has a bit of an understanding for Killua and his approach. And he must have, clocked that, okay, he's a little bit similar to me. But yeah, I certainly think that retreating, exiting out of a difficult and tricky situation is perfectly fine in many cases. Again, like I said, Neferpito, hell yes, you had to get out of there. Of course you had to get out of there. That was the right move. But the thing is, that retreat is facilitated by Kite being there, right? Because Neferpito's not really even... I don't know. She notices them. She notices Gon and Killua, but her attention is not on them, right? She's selected. She's kind of picked out the person she wants to test herself against, and that's Kite from that crew of 3, right? So yeah, they kind of lucked out there, didn't they? But that's not always going to be the case, right? Retreat might not always be the option. It might not be on the table, Now, now their journeys have taken them to this unpredictable point, right? Speaking of the NGL and the Chimera ant threat, right? So yeah, he's going to have to start thinking about engaging. That graph that she uses to showcase this idea of any given Sunday, perhaps, right? There's that saying, any given Sunday. Upsets can happen on any given day. It is possible you could best someone that is perhaps, technically better than you. There is a full-on example of this in this episode in the Knuckle and Gon encounter. Gon is that close to beating someone that is far superior than him. He had him until his body gave out. He's that close to beating someone superior in Knuckle, right? So it's doable. It's possible, right? These things can happen. Right? Things can be unpredictable out there. At a moment's notice, things can change. The dynamic of an encounter can shift. The tide can shift, right? The ebb and flow and all of that. But that only happens if you engage. That only happens if you are open to putting yourself out there a bit, right? And learning from it, because that's the best learning experience. And you see that during that encounter, Gon is learning on his feet. He's improving. Right? Of course, let's not forget that, there's a big helping hand there as well. Knuckle is more than open to helping him, and Gon clocks this, and he uses that help as well. Now, of course, you cannot expect Killua to take the exact approach as Gon, because again, Gon's a bit of a loose cannon sometimes. He's open to, crossing that line, right? He does it all the time. He puts himself at such incredible risk all the time. And, that's the point I was making. There's only so much you can do to help Gon from himself. So for Killua, of course, it's going to be a bit of a different approach, but, he's got to open up. He's got to engage. And, again, Bisky kind of gives him that final push by putting that notion in his mind, putting it out there, right? That, listen, if you don't change this approach, if you don't begin to try to change this approach, you're going to put your best friend at risk. I almost said the person he loves most at risk, and that's a possibility, but I'm not sure about that because I still don't know about that one sibling that he's holding hands with. And I'm speaking of the silhouette of the Zoldyck clan, right? It even shows like grandparents and all of that. But the one thing that really stood out, something really quite striking, is that, he's holding hands with one of his siblings, right? So, I can't say for sure, that Gon might be the person he loves most, because it could be that sibling. There could be that type of relationship there. And it's still really, really kind of strange that I haven't seen that sibling. There's just no mention of them. They're kind of like a ghost, right? So that's kind of a head scratcher. I always kind of come back to that. And, going back to Bisky's approach, it's really quite a calculated approach, isn't it? To transform into that form, right? She wants to see it. She wants to put it to the test once again to show Killua that this is your reaction to something that is an unknown, something that is far greater than you, right? Something you perceive to be far greater than you. Ultimately, you have a bit of a defeatist mentality, right? I think she even used the term loser at one point. That's how losers think. And again, some of these things might sound a little bit harsh, but this kind of approach is needed, and Bisky understands that. And the thing is, you can kind of go all the way back to the aircraft, right? The little game, the challenge that takes place between Netero, the chairman, and Gon and Killua, right? He noted back then that Killua is deciding to leave, right? He's deciding to quit, is he? Right? He picked up on it then. I mean, you can map it throughout the arcs at this point, right? His reactions to, the unknowns. Even someone like Master Wing kind of sends him, flying to the edge of the room, right? Immediate reaction to that malice, that controlled malice, but malice nonetheless. I don't know, man. It's this instinctive reaction that's built into him. But yeah, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I really enjoyed the Gon and Knuckle encounter, right? You see the constants that are part of Gon's approach, right? The feints, the misdirection and all of that, right? He's used it many times. That's been a thing since the early days, right? The Hunter exam arc, his run-in with Hisoka, right? Getting his tag, Heaven's Arena as well. Again, against Hisoka, right? He kind of uses a bit of a similar strategy in this episode as well, using paper, so now I've seen all of them in action, but it's really quite clear almost immediately, clear to Knuckle that, this is not as it's not as strong, this emission. And because of that, he's almost immediately able to clock that, okay, he must be an enhancer, given the fact that, okay, his rock is far superior than, this emission technique. But, he got caught offside there. He wasn't able to clock that it's a diversion, right? Bit of a, I don't know, brain fart moment for Knuckle, perhaps. And see, this is the thing. This is the thing Bisky spoke of. Any given Sunday, these things can happen in the field, right? He's far superior. But even someone like Knuckle is open to having these lapses in concentration. So even if he might be a little bit unrefined, or even if he might be a little bit raw still, this is how Gon improves. He needs to be in these types of encounters. Yeah, so Gon's Jajenkin, it's really quite interesting, isn't it? Because ultimately he ends up using the weakness of his ability as a strength. He turns it on Knuckle. And as Killua noted, it can be adapted to any situation, right? And the only chance Gon has of actually, implementing that is to be in these types of encounters, to, learn from these types of encounters. And that's the point Bisky is making to Killua, that he needs to learn and grow from these types of encounters. But that cannot happen if you do not engage. And yeah, like Killua said a few episodes ago, they've been really quite lucky. They've been lucky. They've always had the right type of person, the right people come into their lives at just the right moment. And at this moment in time, it's been Knuckle, right? Certainly for Gon. But even for Killua, he might not have engaged in almost a month, but, he's still able to take it all in and, kind of give us a play-by-play, and he can also kind of learn from it. But again, it's maybe not quite the same as actually stepping in there, but I'll get it soon enough, right? The setup is there now. I'll get shoot against Killua. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. I got a bit of, the looming presence that is Palm. Hell, I even got a bit of a cameo from Killua and Leorio. But, one thing I know for sure is that I just need more of Knuckle and Shoot. I'm just beginning to get more of Shoot, and, I'm beginning to like him as well. But of course, I really, really, really adore Knuckle at this point. It's just crazy to think that a few episodes ago, I'm just kind of like, okay, let's see these guys, But, it took maybe one episode for me to just completely, adore Knuckle. I mean, I really enjoy seeing Knuckle around Gon and Killua, right? And long may it continue, right? Into the NGL, hopefully. But yeah, if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in early access or timer-based full length, or full opacity, consider checking out the Patreon page and, potentially supporting the channel in the process as well. Yeah, and once again, I must implore you to really read and understand the tier descriptions. If you do not understand it completely, I'd say maybe, get in touch, right? You can just come into the YouTube comment section and I'll try my best to get back to you, right? And if you don't agree with the stuff that's in the tier descriptions, then maybe, maybe it's not for you. Maybe steer clear, maybe just enjoy it on YouTube. There's also links to social media if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.